Well, there's so much to jump onto there and even tear apart with our political panel tonight. Labor legend Graham Richardson joins us. He's on my right, as does New South Wales Liberal Senator Holly Hughes. Team, it is the first time.
I know, it's been ages.
Been three of us.
It's been nice a long to be in the studio, Richard.
I have been praying for this moment. This is
well,
this
can I
is
tell you that it'd be
important...
nice to not have the shadow of Amanda moving in the background in your glass as you're sitting up in your crown.
It's a behind the scenes
in your throne.
She wouldn't be far away.
All right, Anthony Albanese played it straight again today at the ALP campaign launch. He must think this small target approach is working for him because here he is in full flight.
Now, Scott Morrison says you don't have to like him, but it's the better the devil you know. Well, here's what Australians do know. They know he fouled on bushfires and they know he then fouled on floods. They know he didn't order enough vaccines and then didn't order enough rapid antigen tests. Whenever Australia needs a solution, he offers only smirk and mirrors. We can do better than this, so much better than this.
That's a clever line, smirk and mirrors.
Yeah, I liked it. I noted it.
Did it come from you?
No, it didn't.
Okay. How did your boy go?
I think he went pretty well. I don't think that these set speech occasions are the things that win or lose elections. You just have to get through them without making a galah of yourself. That's really the aim, and he did that.
We kept hearing from him this slogan, we can do better. The government can do better. Australia can do better. It's clear that after 3 terms, the coalition, you guys have baggage. And it's difficult to fight that baggage at this stage in the election campaign. Is that a problem on the ground?
No, not at all. And if you want to call a AAA credit rating baggage, we'll take it. Because we are one of the only countries in the world that still has a AAA credit rating, who has weathered this pandemic better than most other countries. Now, we appreciate and understand that cost of living pressures are very, very real, but we also still have one of the lowest inflation rates in the world. So if that's what Albanese thinks is baggage, that we've had a successful economy that is bouncing back better than ever after the pandemic, well, I think he's been asleep at the wheel.
I'm not a fan, Richo, of this equity sharing scheme where the government goes in and looks after 40% of your mortgage. That is not a good lesson for my 6-year-old and teenage kids.
Well, I don't think it's a bad lesson for them. Look, governments reach in and help you in all sorts of ways.
But that's a big help.
It's a big help, but it's also the biggest single thing that every family faces. Buying a home is becoming something that's out of the reach of ordinary people. And I think Albo's trying to put it back in reach. I don't see that that's a bad thing.
But don't you have to give buyers, prospective buyers, a hand up, not a handout? It's welfare. It's $5 billion in welfare.
And it's for 10,000 people per year.
Yeah. It's not much of a target group. 10,000 not a lot of people.
10,000 people. It's not exactly hitting...
Isn't the home scheme that you've got affecting 50,000 now?
Over 60,000 at the moment. And that's not handing people out money. It's not taking equity in their home. It's certainly not pushing up the housing market, which is exactly what this will do. We know that when we saw the first home buyers grant come in, the prices went up by the price of, the home buyers grant. You guys say we're going to put 40%, the government's going to pay it. Well, what do you think is going to happen to housing prices, which is just going to make it more unaffordable for families to be able to break into the market? OK,
let me give a tick to both sides, though, I would say, Richo. These PBS dualling medicine discounts. And I know that Labor today had a $12.50 discount. The Coalition's got a $10 discount. I'm still uncertain as to who came first and whether the Coalition headed Labor off at the pass or vice versa. But it makes sense. It does impact the cost of living because you can't change your choice of medicines quite often.
That's right. The doctor chooses it for you in the main, because I think we're over the generic stuff. That doctors will usually go for the generic stuff these days. They don't muck around all the time with the original. So as far as I'm concerned, I think that Labor's policy is good enough. You can always do better. You can always throw more at it. You remember that. There's no limit. You can just keep going.
But it's hard for any federal government...
But we all have to have a limit.
Correct. But it's hard for a federal government, no matter what the public thinks, to impact greatly the cost of living. See, I would argue that state governments could do a lot more with rego, with licensing, etc., etc., electricity, utilities. It's tough for a federal government to start making it more affordable for us to live.
Yeah, it is. I mean, I think most of the heavy lifting has to be done in the states, but the Commonwealth has to make its contribution. And this is one of the areas where you can.
Who came first with the PBS? The Coalition or the Labor Party?
Oh, well, we made the announcement first. The announcement made on Friday.
Yeah, but who came up with the policy first?
Oh, look, I'm sure it was us. I have no doubt that it was coming out of Greg Hunt's office.
Now, I'd like to see a little bit of
because
evidence.
the thing is, Richo, if we cast our minds back to the last time Labor was in government, they could not manage money to the point that they actually stopped listing medicines on the PBS.
Ooh,
so
that's a very good point,
the deduction of the price now of these PBS medicines, it's actually thanks to the Morrison government, the coalition government, that you have seen so many medicines listed for Australians to be able to access. So, you know, we've got to look at what's happened in the past. We've got to look at Albanese and his mates. They were all part of it. I mean, Katie Gallagher, the poor love, one day she's a mean girl, the next day she's whiny girl because, the Liberals copied our policy. I mean, seriously, grow up.
Did she really say that?
Yeah. They came in, they got wind of our policy and called it out first. Now we're doing $2.50 more. We're better. I mean, seriously, is this who we want running the country?
allegation, and I take it seriously.
Where's the evidence?
How dare you? That's what I say.
I want to get
Who
to
says
these,
you didn't copy us? We announced it on Friday.
I want to get to these Teal independents because I've only got limited time. Richo, they say they don't belong to a political party, but we learnt this weekend that Simon Holmes à Court and his Climate 200 group dispensed with some who came to him wanting finance to be a Climate 200 candidate, which means they've selected their Climate 200 candidate.
They're obviously a political party. Whether they want to say they are, it doesn't matter. Everyone knows they are. And I think they're not going to do very well.
You don't think they will?
No, plenty of money, but not much support. Not much support.
Well, if you look at the equivalent in Kooyong, I think the equivalent rated something like 4% last time round, and independent with climate objectives. You just wonder whether they can get beyond 10% in Kooyong. Buckley's. Holly, are we overestimating the power of the Teal independents? Because boy, oh boy, they're getting some coverage.
Well, you know, perhaps everyone should stop covering them and stop talking about them. That might be helpful because the coverage is in the media most of the time.
But we've got to find out from them. This is my
Well, we know they stand for nothing except Simon Holmes à Court
What are
fund
they going to do
management
in a
renewable
minority government
energy.
scenario? Who
Well, they
are
won't
they
tell
going to
us.
support?
They won't tell us.
They have to tell us.
They will not tell us because they don't want you to know. But I'll tell you who they'll support.
Yeah.
It'll be Labor and the Greens. You'll have an Albanese bank government with a whole bunch of lunatics with no other policies calling the shots when we're facing incredible economic crises around the world. We've got a war in Ukraine. We've got China in the doorstep. And you want an Albanese bank government who, I notice they're not talking about their gender impact statement that has to come on every policy that they talked about the night before they did their budget reply. They are absolutely in this for renewable energies and fund managers that have invested in them. But what I'd be interested to see, interestingly, they're not out there backing Di Lee. No one's out there backing the independent Di Lee, who's had the absolute temerity to run against Christina Keneally. They're only running against Liberals. They're only running against moderate
That will be a fascinating result. Can I ask you this? I've only got 15 seconds with both of you. At the halfway point in this election campaign, is the coalition better placed to win now?
Absolutely. And I'll tell you, I was on the ground in Blacktown the other day. The mood is buoyant.
Are they better placed?
That just means that Holly's going to be even more disappointed on the day. Win and win with a bit despair.
Love it.
Richo.
Richo, good to have you in here. Holly Hughes, thank you very much. Continue this outside.
We shall.
Offset.